For today's reading lesson, we are going to be reading a folk tale called The Ugly Duckling. Now, some of you may have heard of this story before. It is a very popular folk tale. A folk tale is an old story that has been told for many years. Sometimes it teaches a lesson. Our text focus for this story is that many tales have storytelling phrases. Sometimes stories begin with once upon a time. Sometimes they end with happily ever after. What do these words mean in this story? As we are reading through, be looking for a lesson that can be learned. Also be on the lookout for these storytelling phrases. Let's get started reading The Ugly Duckling. Once upon a time, a duck sat on 8 eggs. One day, all but one of the eggs hatched. The ducks waited until the last baby bird came out. He was big and gray. The other ducks thought he was ugly. Each day, the ducklings would follow Mother Duck. They were learning to be ducks. The other ducks did not want to play with the ugly duckling. He felt sad. One day, he left. Winter soon came. A farmer found the ugly duckling. "I must take you home before it begins to snow," he said. When spring came, the farmer took the duckling to a pond. The duckling saw himself in the water. He felt like many years had passed. He had changed. Now he knew he was not an ugly duckling. He was a young swan. He and the other swans lived happily ever after. When reading through our story about the ugly duckling, what lesson do you think the ugly duckling learned? In our story on page 71, it says, "The other ducks did not want to play with the ugly duckling. He felt sad." On page 70, it also says, "The other ducks thought he was ugly." At the end of our story, the ugly duckling looks at his reflection in the water and knows that he is not ugly. He is a young swan. A lesson that can be learned from the ugly duckling is to not worry about what others say or think of you. The other ducks thought that the ugly duckling was ugly, which made him feel very sad. When the ugly duckling looked at himself, he knew that he was not ugly. What matters is how you feel about yourself, not what others think of you. In our story, we also had 2 storytelling phrases. We said that storytelling phrases often begin with once upon a time and sometimes end with happily ever after. In the beginning of our story, The Ugly Duckling, the first sentence says, "Once upon a time, a duck sat on 8 eggs." by saying once upon a time is used to tell of a story that happened in the past and tells that the story is beginning. In the last sentence of our story, it says, "He and the other swans lived happily ever after." When a story ends with the phrase, "lived happily ever after," that means that the character in the story went on to live happily for the rest of their life. That brings us to the end of reading our story for today, The Ugly Duckling. Later this week, tomorrow, we will reread our story, and then I have a short video version of The Ugly Duckling for all of us to watch. Now let's move on to our next activity. For the next part of our lesson, let's read our decodable for the day, Fox and Crow, retold by Melissa Rothman, illustrated by Tom Sperling. As we're reading through our story, I want you to be listening for words that have the sound in them. Remember that the letters ER, IR, and UR all make the sound. When we read a word that you hear the sound in, look and see what letter pattern it uses. Does it use ER, IR, or UR? Be sure to be following along with me at home. Let's get started reading. Crow is perched in a birch tree. She sees some grapes on the ground. Crow grabs the grapes and goes back to her perch. Fox passes by. It seems as if he has not had a meal in years. Fox thinks, if that bird speaks, she will drop those grapes. First, Fox asks, "What is your name?" Crow turns her back. Next, Fox asks, "Crow, are you feeling well?" Crow will not speak. Crow will not stir. Then Fox tells Crow, "It's sad that a bird as nice as you cannot sing." Crow whirls, and then she blurts, "Sir, I am learning to sing." The grapes land in soft dirt. As crow sings, fox eats them up. Then he smiles, turns, and trots off. Fox tricked Crow this time, but Crow has learned. Fox will not trick her next time. To end our lesson, let's complete an activity in our reader's notebook on page 96. We will check our answers during our intervention group. We are going to be spelling words with R-controlled vowels. E-R, I-R, U-R. Remember, when it is R-controlled, the bossy R, put a spell on the vowels to turn them into roosters. Now they say, we have spelling words here on the side, and each of these words have one of our R-controlled vowels. Each of these words have an ER, an IR, or a UR. The words are sir, fern, girl, her, third, hurt, fur, bird, turn, stir. For this activity, there are 3 different sections. The first section wants you to write the spelling words that have ER in them. The second section wants you to write the spelling words that have IR in them. And the last section wants you to write the spelling words with UR in them. For example, if I take our first word, sir, sir is spelled S-I-R. That means I will go to the section that says write the spelling words with I-R, and I will write the word sir in the blank. As you are going down your list, be looking. If they have an ER, put the words with the ER section. If they have an IR, put the words in the IR section. If they have a UR, put them in the UR section. All 10 words will be going in the blanks below. If you have any questions, please let me know. We'll go over your answers during our intervention groups today.